Hey, Darren. Just you. Hey, Tyler. Just the three of us, huh? How are you guys doing? Everybody okay? Hello, Dr. Shaw. Rishi. I'm just looking to see. I've unmuted everybody so you can say hi if you want to.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
How y'all doing?
Well.
Fantastic.
Whose dog is that?
He's on the energy bus.
Yeah, it's my dog. I muted myself.
Nice. Well, I don't want you guys to have to be here all day. Look, it's Caroline. Caroline, are you here? I just see a black screen. Well, let's hope she can be a part of it. So, bye, Caroline. Just, I figured I don't want to keep these things starting at 8:10, 8:15, or I'm going to mute everybody just for a second. I muted you all. Screaming child trumps all. So, show of hands, how many of you have read the book? Oh, cool. Good. What a surprise. Everybody read the book. How wonderful. So, you know, I don't want to have meetings start at 10 after or whatever. It's not fair to you guys who show up here at 8 o'clock. So I figure we can get started, and anybody else who drops in, drops in. It's not, I would say, of the books we're going to read in the last 6 months and the coming 6 months, this is probably the lightest reading that we're going to do. Did this take anybody more than like 2 hours to read? If that long? Out of curiosity, and anybody can unmute themselves, by the way, if you want to. First of all, did you enjoy this book? Yeah, no? Was it worthwhile to you? I see.
Yeah, it's good.
Trying to say
Good
something?
motivator.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the bus I get on every day. Like every morning when I go to work, this is like what I'm driving. I also, just as an aside, I found that this is a really, really good book. Hey, Brent. This is a really good book for your team because they can complain all day long about the tougher books, and I frankly give my team very easy books to read. And they'll complain and say, oh, I don't have time. I mean, genuinely speaking, if you can't find time to read this book, you're really not trying that hard, in my opinion. So we could go on all night about things, and I've sort of, all of these are spots that I felt were really good places. When I read books, this is how I do it. But I'd love to get some feedback. Who wants to get the ball rolling a little bit about some of the stuff that they saw or thought about when they were reading this?
I've got tons of notes too, but I don't know where to start.
Anything
Once
you
upon
want.
a time.
Maybe we can go over the 10 rules and kind of go from there. Is that too complicated or?
No. I mean, like I said, contrary to public opinion, I really want you guys to run these meetings and have me sort of come in and, hey, Brandon, and just sort of I want to help facilitate, and I love it when someone takes a lead. So I think it'd be a great idea to sort of rip down all 10, maybe with some examples from each one about how we can make a positive change in our practices. Does that seem to make some sense?
Yeah.
So rule number 1, so has anybody here not read, is that Anissa? I can't. It said Muhammad, and you didn't look like Muhammad, so I figured I knew who it was. First of all, since I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 of you, first of all, you guys have been doing a great job of getting involved and trying to get stuff going. And as I've said numerous times, I think you'll get out of the group what you put into the group. And there are people who wow, that was a dramatic effect.
Sorry.
There's no problem. I feel like I should come
I
up
got
with
my phone's
something
connected to the Bluetooth.
But there are many people who will be a part of this group of ours, or as the Cosa Nostra calls it, this thing of ours. And there are people who are part of our group who've not once said anything in 6 months. And I think the people who are getting involved and commenting, I'm going to keep throwing stuff out there, trying to motivate conversation. And the things that we talked about last week, about all the things we want to change in our practices, I'm going to rip those down and start pulling those down into the group so we can start working on them together in the kind of way that I know we all want to. And I'm going to try to keep motivating people to get involved, because I'll tell you, the more I get involved, the more I get out of it. So thank you, first of all, for all being involved. Number 2, I'm going to announce it on the group page. Next month's book that we're reading, I don't remember it off the top of my head because I did like 6 of them at once for you all. But I need to probably move that from that Thursday night right before MKS, because I found out I've got a pretty big meeting I've got to be at that Thursday night. And I could do it really early, but it wouldn't be good for people on the West Coast. And so I'm going to post something up there to see if maybe we can do it the night before that Wednesday night, if that's okay. And I'll record it either way and see what we got. So in Dr. Hart's honor, let's start with the 10 rules for the ride of your life, which if you have the book in front of you is on page 157. So it says, you are the driver of your bus. Who wants to throw out there some ideas about A, what that means, and B, how we're going to use that? I can think of a couple of ways. I'd like to hear what you think about really how that applies to us.
So I have a quick quote right after that I wrote that says, if you're not the driver, then you'll always be at the whim of everyone else's travel plans. And a lot of these ideas are so like stupidly simple, right? And no duh ideas, but half of them we don't do every day. And this is one of them. Like, of course, if you're not taking charge, then someone else will, right?
Yeah.
And I know I see this all the time in my practice. If I don't show up with my A game to put on the show, then everyone else are there. You know, it's going to be my assistant who may or may not be happy that day, or my front desk who may not be having a good day. And so that's one thing that about that rule that you go into every day, you got to make sure you're doing that.
I like it. Jerry, before you get drunk, did you want to add anything?
Jerry, you got to take your off mute. Take it off mute.
You got the idea.
Sorry, I'm just getting back from a flight here. I don't even know what you're asking. What was that? I heard my name.
Before you get drunk, did you want to add anything? I saw you tipping back a bottle like you were going to town on it.
Yeah, it is water, I assure you. But, yeah.
Doesn't bother me.
Long day. It's all good.
We're all just talking about, you're the driver of the bus, and
Right.
Tyler's talking about the fact that, basically, if you're not in a good mood, nobody else is going to be in a good mood. And
Absolutely.
I think there's value in saying that you control, all too often, my pet peeve is when people say, well, it's hard because I have a tough day and the schedule's not the way I want it. And so it's all just an excuse to be pissed off. And, you all have seen me write about it before. did anybody here see that blog post I put on about the crash of that airplane? No, I put it on Orthopreneurs. Oh, I'll start putting them on RD as well. I figured that anybody who sees the post is going to see it on Orthopreneurs. But there was a crash of an airplane in Sioux City, Iowa back in the 80s. It was a famous plane that cartwheeled into a field, and it was caught on camera, and half the people lived and half the people died. But very few people know the real story, and I got to see the captain of that plane lecture once as a keynote. And they lost all flight control with like an hour and a half. They stayed aloft without any flight control, just using thrust to lift and turn the plane because one wing was dipping, so they could turn in circles. And they actually lined up to go into a runway and land, but they were coming in too fast, so they had to ease back. The plane tipped and it cartwheeled. And so the head pilot on that plane, he said that there's a very famous quote when your plane has an emergency. And they always like to say that attitude affects altitude. And if you've got a good attitude, if you go into the world in a positive way, great things are going to happen. And I am telling you, our summer was good, but I went to go visit a friend of mine in Des Moines, Iowa, and watched his practice and saw his positive energy and his team. And I thought I couldn't get any more positive, but I came back like amped. And I'm telling you, we had our best month by 80% over our previous best month. Now you could say, well, it was summer, whatever. I'm just telling you, I did 80% more production than my best month ever before that. So I'm telling you, I was in the office in cloud 9 every day, just like that. And I'm telling you, my patients, my team, I think they all got it. And everybody was just walking in the door and just saying, sure, let's start. And I agree, Tyler, that, we can be captains of our own plane or driver of our own bus. What else does anybody else want to add to that?
That's exactly right. I found nobody's going to care as much as you do. And same thing. And when I walk in there and I'm focused on other things and I'm not as energized, absolutely. Nobody works as hard as I do, and it shows, it trickles down. Absolutely.
I think something that's important to kind of think about too is, if you think about the story of Joy and her being the bus driver, and she didn't just turn anybody down from getting on her bus. She brought them on and she taught them and developed them and taught them the skills and showed them the skills and enabled them to be successful, and it became a culture. That bus was a culture. Everybody knew everybody else and everybody brought different value to the table. And so, I think it's important for us as leaders and drivers of the bus to teach and educate and lead.
We lost you there, Doug, for the last 5 seconds. You were muted for whatever reason.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell you all my secrets. So. No, I just saying I think it's important for us as leaders to not just expect the best of our team, but to teach and train and give them the tools they need to succeed. Because a lot of them have never been given those tools.
The majority of them.
On that note, do you have any specific ways of giving them those tools? Is it kind of a lead by example? You do maybe a presentation? What kind of things is anyone else doing to perhaps do what Doug said?
One of the things the book mentioned was reinforcing positive action. So when they actually do something good, actually highlighting that and bringing it to their attention and giving them praise for that. That's one thing that I've been doing, especially in this last year, that's made a big difference. Because I used to always point out small things that they would do wrong or could do better or different. But, just like any of us, like if someone only told you that all day, you're going to get discouraged. You want to get better, but it's always nice to hear some compliments too. So I always try to give a ratio of 2 compliments to 1 recommendation, let's say. And that I find people will improve themselves if you give them more compliments than critiques in a way. And those critiques you give then, they're more likely to actually try to change them or improve upon them.
I agree. You know, you saw that post, I don't know where it was, but I think Lance Miller was talking about giving bonuses to his team around Christmas time. I think there was something on that. And I was like, you know, I don't ever give away money for no good reason because it's not a motivator. I would much rather, you know, give my team a proverbial hug and say thank you. Like, we've been down 2 team members this week. I only have 5 total staff, and we've been down 2. And I don't know about y'all, but September is supposed to be a slow month. And for whatever reason, I mean, it's been crazy. I'm not complaining, but we all expected that summer rush to like calm down. And like when we get to the end of the summer, we'll be able to take a breath and work on policies and systems. And all of a sudden we're down 2 people because of weddings and I fired somebody. And, you know, I just go through the office all day just telling my team how great they're doing, how amazing they are. And I know how hard it is. And they come back to me and say, we're going to do it. We're going to be fine. We're going to find the right person. And sometimes I get just overwhelmingly happy when I see my team exceeding that happy factor that I'm not expecting. You know what I mean? I don't know if you all ever noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, my heart. Wait a second. So yeah, going back to what Tyler said, you know, be the driver of your bus. You know, I'll say here in front of all of you, I'm going to resolve that every morning I'm going to go to work just even happier than I already am. You know, I love your idea. Was it you, Rishi, with the 2-to-1? Yeah, awesome idea. Awesome idea. I think I often criticize way more than I compliment, and I need to do that more. So I love that idea. Any other ideas about this before we move on to number 2? Anybody want to throw anything in?
Well, I think training tools are important too. I mean, sometimes I find myself just wanting to throw them into the fire and expect them to figure it out without giving them some guidance or giving them resources to figure it out. You know, I had to talk with my team.
Good look, Doug.
More Doug secrets.
What did you do to Doug? You're frozen there, Doug.
Am I back?
You're back.
So did you guys get all that? Because that'll just change your practice overnight.
I was just making fun of you, Doug. You were just.
What?
So my question to everybody here, though, in terms of resources, you know, this is a great opportunity. Who have you all worked with in terms of consultants, business experts? Has there been anybody you've worked with that really made a difference in your practice? I just know that the gentleman who I visited Jim Stork up in Des Moines, and he could not rave enough about the Scheduling Institute with Jay Geyer. He said that it like changed his life. And hold on, if you call them and tell them that you're interested in learning more, they will randomly, I just got this, it came in a FedEx envelope that was sealed and said for Dr. Krieger only personal. And this came in, I don't know how you mirror this image, but basically this is what came to me. And inside, you know, they give you tamper evident tape so that nobody can mess with it. And apparently inside will be a script and a recording of your team answering the phone and running through a new patient appointment. And so he told me when I was at his house, call them and this will come like 2 weeks later. So I would encourage all of you to do this. I haven't opened it yet. It just came. But he said that like they changed his practice. And I will tell you without disclosing my friend's confidence, if we could do what he's doing in his practice with the number of team members he's doing it with the overhead on 3 days a week, every one of us would be flipping overjoyed. And I'm talking to him about trying to get him into the group a little bit at some point because he'd be a great asset. just the most positive, upbeat guy you'll ever meet. But my question is, he raves about Jay Geyer. Anybody here used anybody to get to do training or to get any better in their practices?
We've used Jay Geyer. We did, I guess last year, probably 4 different trainings with them. And I think it's a really good foundational piece because it doesn't matter what you do. If it goes wrong on the phone in that first call, and they're a little bit different in sort of their approach to that first phone call. Their whole thing is the first phone call should be all about booking the appointment. Like, that's the thing. It's not take 10 minutes, tell them all about the doctor, blah, blah, blah. It's like, get it on the books. And so it's a very sort of, they teach your team how to segue certain questions and sort of get it to, sort of a scripted way to offer them different times where they feel like they're making the choice, like they've got the control when really they're only picking options that you've given them. It's pretty interesting. And I think some of their stuff just in general, once you get past a certain sort of phone type stuff, it's a little bit more aimed for GPs. I think a majority of their clients are GPs. So after a certain amount of training, I felt like it kind of, it was like, yeah, I guess that could work, but it wasn't. But I thought it was really helpful. And they also did a thing with where all your staff takes I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's basically almost like a personality test, even though that's not what it's called. And then they break down and you see how different people on your team, sort of how they communicate and and that was actually really interesting too. So I think it's a worthwhile thing. And their mystery calls are great because they're going to quiz them sort of continually and they get graded and they get reports and they've got to get certified. And so it's a good way to get everybody on board. And they've got some ideas about some bonus structures that can work and extended hours with cell phones. And I think it's a good foundational program to build whatever else you're interested in, whether it's marketing or anything. If the phones go wrong, it's all not worth it.
Do you know what they charge?
Well, so it kind of depends. Like, since we kind of went in and did we did an initial one and then we did like 4 others, it was pretty expensive from that package standpoint, but I did feel like there was value. I mean, of course, the more you buy, the more you save, kind of a thing. And it was
sound like my wife.
Yeah, that's right. We probably started 18 months ago. I could probably look it up, but I don't remember the number off my top of my head. I mean, each training was several $1,000s, I'd say. But especially, they send a person to your office. So it's a day-long training for your team. And, it's money well spent, especially that initial, the entry-level phone thing. I think even if you just did that, it would be, you would for sure reap a good ROI on that.
Okay. You know what? I'll reach out to Jay Geyer and his group. And, hey, can we all get a hug? Oh, he's coming over. Oh, there you go, man. Right back at you. So I'll reach out to Jay Geyer and see if I can get him on for one of our web conferences and then maybe see if we can get a deal for the group. I'll see what I can come up with. Thank you, Brandon. Anybody else out there work with anybody that they were happy with or that did anything for their practices? Other than, like I said, we worked with Leanne Panici and I thought the world of her. Send your TC out to Leanne. It's so worth the money, at least in my opinion. You guys?
Second that.
Did you, who used Leanne, did you strictly do the course or send your TC or office manager, or did you kind of do an all-inclusive? I was just down at the ABO and I ran into somebody who was, again, raving about Leanne. She got it right from a startup, and it kind of got me thinking, well, here I am a year into my practice. It'd be nice, I think, to have some better systems and kind of jumpstart and everything, or fast forward. So, I mean, what are your thoughts? Did you use kind of the all-inclusive package, or did you use kind of just that TC module.
Tyler, did you want to talk?
You should go to that TC course too, Jerry.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know if I would do like the whole shebang, her whole package or whatever.
Sure.
I'm sure it would help, but it's spendy. But you should go to the TC thing for sure. And I took my TC and my office manager to that, and it was very, very helpful for both of them. But I'm planning on doing her office manager course here too. We're just in the process of switching office managers. And so I'm going to send my new one here soon. My old one wasn't able to ever go, but I would recommend, I mean, it's a good TC course. And you learn a ton, and she does the phone calls too. So she'll secret call your practice, and you get some eye-opening stuff. At the same time, they're trained to look for very specific cues when they get those phone calls. So you can have an excellent phone call, and if you didn't say exactly what they're looking for, you'll get a bad score still. Mm-hmm. So it's helpful, but there are some funny tricks in there that they want to hear about. So.
And
that's good.
I'm talking to Leanne. Remember, she was on a web conference with us a few months ago. I'm talking to Leanne about maybe seeing if she can do something special for like just our group. Like if a bunch of us wanted to go, could we just like get a day or two, just our offices with her? She did it for the Shulman group a while back, and she's open to doing it for us. And it'll save us some money and get us all to be able to hang out and get some great ideas. So I'm in the process of trying to talk to. She's going to be. Her lead trainer is going to be on the cruise giving a course there, like an hour. And of course, she'll be one-on-one with anybody throughout. She said for the first 2.5, the whole time we're there, she'll sit with anybody and give anything you want to learn while we're there on the cruise. So that's her lead trainer that'll be with us. So I figured there's no rush per se. I mean, it's October now almost, and that's only a few months away. So it gives people an opportunity. If you're not going on the cruise, I'll certainly do everything I can to distill as much information and share it with the group. If you think you want to go and you haven't, you can still sign up and just call Royal Caribbean and just book a room. But yeah, I love Peniche, and I didn't get to go with my TC, and because I was at another CE event. But I would love to send somebody again and go check it out. There's also a website that I wanted to show you all real quick. I'll see if I can share my screen, which is just an absolute mess right now. Let's see if I can share my screen. I'll show you. It's called, here. It's called frontofficerocks.com. It's frontofficerocks.com. And I saw it in a lecture about 6 months ago. And it's a front desk training program. So this woman, she has modules, and you don't have to sign up for the year. But basically, she has modules to train you on anything you want for office managers on how to answer the phone, schedule, not just scheduling, but just basic stuff. If you have somebody who's not really trained and wants to jump on and learn stuff, it's a really good indoctrination program. And it's like, I think like $150 or $199 a month. And there's no long-term commitment. So you can have them watch every video in a period of a month or two and then quit if you want to. So she's dental, she's not ortho, but a lot of her resources are pretty solid. And like I said, your team can go on there and do the videos anytime they want for, how do you handle a late patient, asking patients to pay the first week on the job. I mean, it's pretty cool stuff. So go check it out. It's called, like I said, frontofficerocks.com. And I liked it. So anybody else, anybody wants to add?
I was just going to say, she was on a podcast with Howard Ferran last year, and it's actually a really good podcast. I'm glad he actually brought this up because I completely forgot about her service, but I was thinking about actually using that for our staff because like you said, it's pretty affordable and there's no long-term commitment either. So, if it's not working out, you can always just cancel it.
It's like Doug, inexpensive and no long-term commitment. Where are you, Doug? Did we lose you? Thank you, Rishi. Let's go to, we could go through all 10 of these, but some of them are going to take more time and others won't. So like desire, vision, focus, move your bus in the right direction. the only thing I would throw into there is, again, making sure you know what your vision for your practice is. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. And I'm just as guilty of this stuff as you guys. So again, I'm going to implore everybody to write down their business plan and to write down their vision and to write down their mission and develop it with your team and move forward. And I've done that numerous times in my career, probably 7 to 10 times. And as soon as my team gets coalesced after this little blip, we're going to jump back in and do it again. So anybody want to add anything to that? It says fuel your ride with positive energy. And just out of curiosity right now, anybody in the room right now have an energy sucker in their practice? I see.
Sort of.
Okay. So my
She just
question is,
left.
have you talked to, for
just
those
left this week.
Lisa, you have an energy sucker. I think Darren raised his hand too. Have you talked to these people and tried to get an idea if this is something permanent or if it's like they're going through a tough time personally?
All right. So actually, it's funny. I had to use the rules for today's meeting in my office today. My energy vampire in the office is my office manager. She's been with me for 5 years, but there's always been a problem with her, like her picking on one person at a time, like nitpicking about every little thing they do wrong. So it got to the point where I had another assistant just give me her resignation yesterday because she just had enough of it. So at the end of the schedule, I sat down with her, we talked. I mean, there's a lot of drama, like, oh my God, I'm committed to you. I do this for you, this, that. These girls are messing up. If I don't check on them, then they don't get the work done. So I had to call a meeting for everybody today. And basically, I don't know if I made the right decision, but what I told her is, yeah, you are the office manager, but it's the delivery of your message that's rubbing the people the wrong way. So then for now, I don't want you addressing them. I don't want you verbalizing what they do wrong. You need to tell me that I need to deal with that. And then if I find out you were right and they're just slackers, then I can deal with it. But if the problem is just the way you talk to them, then that's another problem. I need to focus with you, maybe train you differently. So I feel like she's the one that sucks the energy out of everyone. But I also know she's one of the people that work the hardest in the office. So I don't know.
Question for everybody. It's so easy to give your friends advice, right? Because you can see things so clearly that they can't. From a show of hands, who here believes that Anissa's employee should probably be shown the door at some point in the near future? Raise your hand. And who here thinks that Anissa can eventually change this person to have a harmonious relationship in the office? Tyler, I didn't see which way your hand went up.
I'm a Virgo. I don't like confrontation.
Well, let's assume you could have somebody else do all your dirty work.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that that's a tough call, but it sounds like it might not be a right fit.
Yeah. My feeling, Anissa, and this just comes from being in dentistry for 25 years, and it took me 24 and a half to figure this one out. If you are never going to change someone's personality, you just are never going to change. A personality will never change. And so you clearly have someone who's abrasive, someone who you actually had to have a meeting and set rules about how people have to talk in your office because of this toxic individual.
Yes.
And it's like you did the right thing for where you are now, but it's insanity that you have to do that. And I can only make you one promise. If you got rid of her yesterday, your life would be really difficult. Your production would probably drop. Your office efficiency would probably be reduced. And you would be floating on cloud 9 right now. And I'm going to write a blog post in the next week about that little voice in your head. And if I were to ask you right now, Anissa, that voice in your head, is she somebody you should be keeping or is she somebody you should be getting rid of? Not what's easiest, not what's least confrontational, but that little voice in your head. Is she a keeper or is she not a keeper?
Not a keeper.
And just like Tyler, none of us, I'm in the same. None of us wants to go into the office and let somebody go. especially when there's no proposition of who's going to back them up. But I will tell you, I'm running, a wedding has me one short, but the other one I got rid of as soon as summer was over. She was a nice person who was just destructive to the culture of the office. And I said, goodbye, take care. And our office has been running triple time, but we're all smiling at the end of the day. And that's just my advice. Dr. Shaw just had a similar experience in his office.
I just had the same.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Had to fire a girl that I hired to replace one that's leaving on maternity who might be having a baby this weekend. Let her go. It's going to be tough, but it was the right move. I couldn't keep her any longer, and it was a personality thing. Just
Dina, did you want to say something? It looked like you wanted to say something, Dima. We can't hear you. Well, hold on, I'm going to mute you and then unmute you and see if that makes it any better. Oops. Sorry, Brent. Dima jumped around. She left. Look what you did, Jerry. Anyway, she was going to say something, but if any of you says anything, I'm throwing you out of the group. That's how it works. I'm just saying, Anissa, I think you know the answer as you're talking to us about it. And my best assistant is working in my office because she left an office because of an office manager who was oppressive. And after she left, 3 other people left. And if he had only gotten rid of that office manager, he'd have an amazing team around him. So I'm not saying you should fire her. I'm just saying you might want to consider giving her the opportunity to succeed elsewhere.
It's fair.
Anybody else want to offer any suggestions? Okay. Cool.
Dima's trying to say something.
Where's Dima? I don't see her. Oh, there she is. Dima, we can't hear you, but if you go to the chat, you can type it. Okay, there she goes. She's typing. Did you document why you were firing her? Anissa, did you document why you're firing her?
Is it for me, the question, or you guys who've had fired other people?
I think in general. She's probably asking it in general. So interesting you should ask that. I had a phone call today with the Texas Department of Labor who I've never been in a 35-minute phone call about a fired employee looking for wages that I was disputing. And she asked me, have you spoken to her about it before? The woman lied about the termination interview. But in the state of Texas, you can record any conversation as long as one person is privy to it. Meaning, I can record all of you because I know it's being recorded. It just prevents like the FBI from tapping our conversation or for you eavesdropping on a couple of people who don't know what have you, like a telephone tap. So I record every termination without telling them. And so I said to the woman on the phone, would you like me to play back my termination? It's 9 minutes long from start to finish, and I recorded the entire thing. And everything she's telling you is completely untrue. So I do a poor job of documenting my talks with my team. I do a very bad job of that, but we should. But I'm telling you, I told Doug before he let go of this last person, take out your phone, put it on your desk, put on voice recorder, turn it over, and then go get them and bring them in the room and record as long as it's legal in your state, record the entire termination so that you can never be accused. She told the woman, he closed the door, we were alone in the room. She could have said anything she wanted. And thankfully, she didn't say like I made an advance to her, that I wanted her to do something to keep her job, which she could have said. But the entire thing from start to finish was on my phone. So at the very least, I would document that. And you're right, Dima, you should be writing down everything and keeping in their folder. How many of you are diligent enough to make sure you do that every time you have a conversation with your employee? Right. Yeah. It's a good lesson out of tonight, right? It's hard, but with digital files, it's easier than paper, right? So, Colorado is an at-will state. Brandon, so is Texas. We're at will, but at will means you can just fire somebody, right? It doesn't mean that they can't claim unemployment benefits or lie about why they're trying to get them. And that's where we were faced with. She told the woman that I just refused to pay her, that I wasn't going to pay her money anymore. And whatever. So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Dima. It's a great point. We need to all be good about that. By the way, that was all framed under the category of fuel your ride with positive energy. I hope we're all feeling positive, pumped up.
Fire everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody's fired.
I'm positive we need to fire everybody. So number 4, invite people on your bus and share your vision for the road ahead. Again, show of hands. How many of you have developed the mission statement with your team and made sure that every new employee knows it and understands it? Good for you.
Still working on it.
Darren, were you saying something?
Yeah, I didn't develop it with the team, but we go through our vision statement every day as part of our morning huddle.
Nice. Does it get old after a while?
A little bit. It's not too long, so it gets old a little bit, but if it's not constantly in front of you, you kind of forget that that's what our goal is, you know?
Nice. The practice I visited, I adopted something from him that worked really well for me. By the way, I like that, Brent, that you always have somebody present at a termination or an appraisal of a new employee. I like that. It's a good policy. He had his practice core values on the wall, and it was good. And so I came up with my core values and the core values for the practice, and I asked all of my team members, I gave them like a 3-page worksheet on how they could determine what their core values were. And I wanted them to come up with their core values. And immediately, one of them came back to me the next day and gave me this. It just happens to be in my bag. So she gave me her core values, which I was like, wow, like this is the quiet employee, the one who doesn't talk much, who always talks like this, because she's really positive and upbeat. And it just goes to show you, don't judge your employees by their effusiveness. Some people are not me. They're not out there. They're not always talking. They're not gregarious. They're not upbeat, but inside they're good, they're cheerful, they're happy, they're nice. And this is what you get from that person the next day. So it just goes to show you, Anissa, I'm not jumping on your employee because of anything other than the fact that she's causing great friction in your practice. But, I mean, I got this. Then my other employee, my TC, who's very systematic, went through this whole book to give me all of her answers to every question that's in here. So there's a great company I found online. I just downloaded this thing called the Core Values Workbook, for whatever it's worth. And it looks like the name of it is called Living Moxie, M-O-X-I-E. And I was on a flight and I had 2 hours. And if you really take it seriously, it's going to take 2 to 3 hours. So I went through this for 2 to 3 hours and I came up with my core values and I wrote them down. And then my team is doing it. And then we're going to come up with I'm going to show them the practice core values because those reflect who I am. And as long as they're all in alignment with it, I'm going to blow it up and put it on the wall of the team room so that any decision that ever has to be made or anything we ever do is going to be about our core values, which to me will play a bigger role than necessarily my mission or my vision statement, which for me at least, I have a hard time staying on point with my mission statement because it's usually long. It's at least a sentence or two and it's too much, but I can always remember my 5 core values if they're written on the wall and make my decisions around that. So I just wanted to share that with you. Anybody else want to throw anything else out about that?
I didn't make my core values, or sorry, my mission or vision statement with my team, like Darren mentioned, but we talk about it often, and I have several core values there that are critical to the practice, and we're not perfect, and we're working on it, and it doesn't happen every day, but my team knows how important that is to us, and we have our mission and core values listed in several parts of our practice. So, for what it's worth,
I love it.
I think it's important to make it public. I mean, make your vision, your mission public, because then it holds you accountable for really living up to what it is. I mean, everybody's going to want to put something so great and wonderful down on paper. And if everybody knows that that's what you're aiming for, it kind of holds you accountable. So it's good, like Dr. Hart said, to have it posted around the office and have the staff repeat it in morning huddles. I mean, we're still developing ours. We've had a couple team meetings on it. I've had everybody again do their own core values. We've brainstormed some key words that we want to include in a vision and mission statement, and then we're all going to kind of brainstorm and come together and put it together in a final statement. But getting it posted, getting it out there for people to see what you're about, I think there's a lot of value in that because it holds you accountable to it.
I agree. Number 5 on this list is a good one, and I think it's apropos for our world, is don't waste your energy on those who don't get on your bus, right? And here we are, look at all the energy that, I don't mean to beat up on you, Nisa, because that's not what this is about, but look at all the energy you had to spend, and look what you had to do because of one bad apple. You lost an employee. You got to create rules about who talks to who. You have stress on your head now about, am I going to lose somebody? What's going to happen? And it's remarkable about how much energy we waste on these fun suckers, right? That's what they are. And, as I said the other day online, we have to hire right. And the old saying is hire slow, fire fast. And sometimes I fire a little too quickly, I think, and that's why I've slowed down the process. And sometimes I hire too quickly, and I've slowed down the process. And so, yeah. And also, I think it applies to patients. Don't waste your energy on those who don't get on your bus. And I think our bus is also our practice, not just our employees. And, what would you say? If I asked all of you, hold up the number of fingers on 2 hands of the number of people you would dismiss from your practice right now if you could. I love it, Brandon. Yeah, so every one of us had less than 1 hand. And how much time do we spend thinking about those people? Right? That we see their phone ring, we see them coming in for the appointment, and it's like, anybody here dismiss patients ever from their practice who are paying their bill?
Yeah.
Was that you, Darren?
Yeah. And she went to 3 or 4 other doctors, and all of them kicked her out of their office too at the first visit.
Was she mid-treatment?
So I had actually seen her. She was a transfer in. She was obviously, just a pain in the ass about everything, from infection control to finances to everything, to the point where I was sending her CDC guidelines and saying, no, we're following them, shut up. And she disappeared for 3 months because she didn't know what we were doing at the next visit instead of just coming to the appointment. And I gave her a partial refund for that. And then she came in and she was just a pain in the ass. So I dismissed her with 30 days and gave her a partial refund on top of that. She ended up filing a chargeback with the credit card, which I got dismissed because we documented everything, including the partial refund we gave her, which she claimed we never gave. So, and then I got calls from a couple of orthodontist friends in the area who were just like, yeah, did you see this patient? I was like, yeah. And they're like, what happened? I'm like, blah, blah, blah. We kicked her out. And they're like, yeah, we kicked her out. Like, she couldn't even make it through the appointment to get her braces off without causing trouble. So get rid of them. It's worth it.
Yeah. And, we always, many of us fear the dreaded negative Google review. Well, what happened?
Oh, she gave me a bad Yelp review too. So.
And somehow your practice has survived.
And somehow we've survived. But I mean, that one, I just was like, I can't address your treatment because of privacy concerns, but the issues you raise in your review, I can address. And here we go. And I sat on it for a day, so I wasn't hot-headed when I posted it. Had a couple other people read it, and they're like, no, that sounds good. So it was good. But to go back to Anissa a little bit, a year and a half ago, I fired 3 people in one day.
Right on. My kind of day.
And 3 days later, I had another assistant leaving who had given me her 2 weeks notice, and I knew she was leaving. And she had good attitude, just couldn't keep up with the pace. And so she moved to a slower office. And no hard feelings there. But, yeah, but the ones that I fired, it was like my ops manager was about to quit because of just the attitude and pushback she was getting. And we had a team meeting on a Thursday. And then on Friday, I went out of town. And I came back and I was running payroll Sunday night. And I noticed that someone had noted I got here at 9, but I didn't clock in until 9:30. They wrote in when they clocked in. So I look at the security camera, and she had gotten there at 9 and then spent half an hour not even walking past the front door bitching about things. So I was just like, nope, you're all just gone. So I fired him the next day. And stress level went down.
Yeah.
For the whole office.
And I want to make it clear to everybody here, I absolutely hate firing people. I do.
Oh, it sucks.
To their livelihood, right?
Yeah, it sucks.
But I told Doug this yesterday morning. When you walk into the office and you're like, oh, crap, I got to fire somebody, I always just picture in my head my wife and my kids. That's all I think about. My biggest loyalty is to my wife and my kids. And if I'm coming home in an angry mood, if I'm staying there an hour extra to diffuse a tension between 2 employees, if I've got somebody who's ruining my ability to bring home an income, it makes it really easy for me to do it. And I love getting rid of people who are toxic to my office, but I don't like firing people. So I don't want you to think like I'm
no.
But
no, firing people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I was livid. One of them had already been on a probation before. But yeah, I mean, I've fired people for a bunch of things. Several of them have done something that was just non-negotiable. You're out. Sorry, my dog. I mean, I fired 2 new hires this summer for performance issues, and I didn't want to do it. But when the rest of the clinical team's like, we can't work with them, they don't cover it, you got to do it. The thing is, if everyone else in the office is better off for it.
Is your dog okay, man?
No, she's got issues. She is an adult rescue, very poorly socialized. She's got issues.
Fire her. So, anybody
Glenn,
do number 6? Did anybody here post a sign, no energy vampires allowed?
Not yet, but I'm doing it. I need to work on that myself.
I gave him all. I printed out a bus ticket, laminated it, gave it to him.
I did that too.
Did you really?
Yeah. I gave him the book. It was essentially like a page marker, a bookmark, and I said, "You'll know what to do with that bookmarker when you're done with the book."
What did your ticket look like?
You can go to the energybus.com or whatever the website is, and there's a few different ones you can print out. And one of them just says bus ticket. There's a couple other things on there.
Nice.
But I have a random tangent question that Darren got me thinking about when he talked about infection control question. So I had a colleague give me a call and ask if I have ever had any issues with anybody ever seeing an open bay ortho clinic and any HIPAA violations fall into play there. I'm just throwing this out to the group. I said, I mean, every standalone ortho practice is usually built with an open bay layout.
What was
Yeah,
the
Doug, it's my understanding that when somebody walks into an orthodontic office, it's presumed that they're there for orthodontic treatment. So the open bay is not a HIPAA violation at all. I mean, that's why you're there. That's what you do. So yeah, I mean, what, 98% of ortho offices are at some point are open bay. So
Right.
yeah, I think that's I'm not worried about it. I've always been under that impression.
You don't do prostate checks or anything in your bay? I mean,
Yeah,
No, but-
only on every other Friday.
Tell me again, what was the exact concern about the open bay?
So he had a patient come in. It was one of those divorce situations. Mom had always been bringing the child in. It was a simple expander they were doing, just coming in for a check. But Dad brought her in, and it was the afternoon, of course, when ortho offices are crazy, when everybody's out of school. And so it was busy, and it was full, and it was organized chaos. And he apparently is like some orthopedic surgeon, and called my buddy afterwards, or called the office and said, I need to speak with the doctor. Have a lot of issues that I saw in there, really concerned, with HIPAA violations. Please have him give me a call. And so he called me asking if I had any knowledge or any firing power before he give him a call and say, other than this is a standard ortho office. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I'd move on. Remember rule number 5. Don't waste your energy on those who who won't get on your bus. Screw them.
Right.
Take your kid somewhere else. I don't need this.
If you've ever been a patient in the ER, there's curtains between you in a lot of the time, in a lot of emergency rooms. And if you're in the ER, a lot of times that's a lot more personal than whether you're wearing your rubber bands or not. So,
Right.
Yeah.
And
I just make sure anyone is aware that if they prefer a more private environment, they've asked for it.
Exactly.
Right.
But there's no HIPAA violation in anything you've described. There's no HIPAA violation. There's no disclosure of anybody's name, social security number, personal identifiers. They walked into a room full of other people, and there's not even a HIPAA discussion. No HIPAA, no personal information has been shared.
I mean, there's, if you got workstation computers that are open and.
Oh, that's different. If you're saying people are staring at it and looking at the workstation computer, that's a different story. But if we're referring to people in an open room talking about their treatment, but you'd have to make it very clear to me that somebody walked by that computer, which is in my office a laptop, and saw their information and stole it from them or had access to it. I think you'd be fighting a very uphill battle. I
agree. I just didn't know if anybody else had any issues with that before in the past. Anybody ever brought that up?
We ran into it once. I teach at NYU Langone at the orthodontics program there. And so we have a 10-chair circular open bay. And a patient last year who was a 16-year-old girl, and the resident realized that she has HSV-1, brought it up to the patient and brought it up to mom, obviously in the large open bay. And didn't bring up HIPAA, but his mother was very embarrassed and very upset. Obviously, one, she's finding out this about her daughter, but two, it's in a public setting to her. So she didn't specifically say HIPAA, but she did, specifically say that this is information or this is something that should be private, One thing I did in my practice, because I have an open bay set up too with only one private op, but when we have discussions like that, that's done in my office. I'll say, you know what, after the adjustment, have mom and so-and-so over to my desk, and they'll come into my office and we'll discuss those. If it's rubber bands, hygiene, routine compliance like that, I think it's fine in an open bay. Not something sensitive of that sort, maybe.
I agree, 100%. Just going through the last few, number 7 was enthusiasm attracts more passengers and energizes them during the ride. I think that's obvious. I think we've hit on that. Does anybody want to add anything to that?
I want to say something about that. When I read this part, I made a note. I chose the word specifically by my note. I said, choose to be happy. Don't let something make you happy. And I wrote on my mirror, I read the book several months ago, but I wrote on my mirror in my bathroom, choose to be happy. And I chose those words specifically because if you think about, if you say it, I choose to be happy versus choose to be happy, one's a command and one is a possibility, right? Whether you're actually doing it or not. But if you say, I choose to be happy, then there's no question about it. Whereas choose to be happy is a recommendation, right? And you say, I choose to be happy. That's a choice you are presently making. And that had a pretty dramatic effect on my attitude for several months. And it's a good reminder. I need to put it back up on my mirror. So,
yeah, I agree with that.
I thought that was generally an uplifting chapter. I had a lot of highlights in it as well.
Anything you want to share?
I just, just starting with how they break down enthusiasm. I thought that was cool. To the Greek word. I just have underlined here. I like that the second meaning that they had, filled with the divine, that kind of was inspiring, uplifting to me. I thought that was cool. And then again, just below, Walt Whitman said, we convince with our presence. I thought that was kind of powerful, just presence alone kind of thing. So
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to share anything from that chapter? All right. Well, we talked about loving your passengers, and I think we hit that earlier when Doug first started talking about how you have to want to help the people around you on your team. They're not just going to happen by accident. And, the thing that I saw at that practice I visited, I asked them during lunch, I said, why do you like working here? Like, what is it about this practice? And, it's funny online. I can post to you something about, I was really thinking I was going to post something on my blog this past week that dealt with God and divinity in a very broader topic, something fully inclusional that anybody could find something good in. And I sort of stepped away thinking, as good as it might be, I don't know if everybody would really appreciate it as much as I do. But if I posted it like, where do you get burrs for $3 or less? I would get like 150 comments, right? And we get so focused on the clinic, like as orthodontists, we get drawn to the technician. We go to the clinical side before we go to the heavy emotional side, right? So I could post things about emotional and get no responses or 5 comments. But if I talk about, like I said, a clinical pearl of how to, move a rotated cuspid, 250 people will go on it and, share it. And the thing I was getting at about, just loving your passengers, I asked this team, why do you love working here? And I expected them to say, we do awesome ortho, the doctor is really cool, we've got great patients, the kind of typical answers you'd expect. And their answer to a person all at once was, we know how much he loves us and how much he wants to take care of us. And it sort of took me aback because I love my staff and I try to take care of them. But I don't know if I wasn't there, that would be the reason they say they stay with me. You know what I mean? And so I came back and said, I commit myself to loving my team more and being, a better team leader and letting them know that I want to improve their lives outside the practice, not just in it. So heavy, I know, but I'd love to get your feedback on this one also. Anything else you all want to add to it?
I love that, actually. And sometimes I walk out of the office feeling bad because I don't go up front. Some days I feel like ever. And, I just I have a receptionist up there and she's very sweet and she's fairly new. So I think she's kind of worried if I like her or not. And I leave the office some days thinking like, I didn't make a point to connect with her or to make her feel welcomed or, I do, that's my goal. Even when I onboard them, I always say this doesn't have to be my practice. It can be our practice. I want you to be part of this. I want, your needs to be met. I want them to be happy here. Right. And so that's very important to me. But absolutely, you know, I do feel that way. And sometimes I feel bad, like I said, leaving when I maybe didn't connect with one of my team members or, you know.
I hear you.
That's a really good point.
I don't know if you guys have seen this book. I just picked it up, so I haven't gotten through it yet. But it's, can you see that? 1,501 Ways to Reward Employees. You know, low cost, no cost ideas, best practices, latest trends. So actually a team member of mine has a husband who their office does a bunch of stuff like this, and she's the one that told me about it. So I just picked it up. I don't know if it's going to be good, but I just flipped through it. It seems like a pretty good resource because I'm not very creative, and so might be worth the $8 or $12 or whatever, just to have some different ways to, you know, have your staff feel appreciated.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I think we spend so much time trying to create the patient experience and everything's about the patients when really we should start to create a better employee experience. And if you're not good at that, I'm sure like what I did is found somebody that works for me to help me with that and keep me accountable. And, you know, it's worked out pretty well because that's probably one of my weaknesses is not showing enough love to my employees.
No, I hear you. This is the kind of stuff that gets my sort of juices flowing in the office. Does anybody else have anything else they want to add to this one?
I was also going to say, like, what I've been noticing recently is employees feeling equal. So I've only started my practice 3 years ago, and it started with me and one assistant, who's now our treatment coordinator. Then we hired a second assistant in year 2, and subsequently now we have a team of 5. But the 2 newest members of our team who have been with us just a year now, often will go to 2 of the senior members to come talk to me. They won't feel comfortable coming directly because they feel that we have a dynamic or friendship or relationship that they don't have. So one of the things I've started to realize or notice is like trying to treat even the new members just as equal or make them feel just as involved. And because a lot of times I've noticed like the newer ones tend to be a little more timid, quiet, because they feel that they don't have the same rapport or dynamic, you know, that the more senior members do because they've been with us longer.
I like it. I'm it's 10 after 9. I know it's getting late and I want to hit the last couple. Drive with Purpose was number 9. Did anybody have anything from that chapter that they wanted to talk about? I didn't get a lot out of that particular one, only because, I mean, none of us got to where we wanted to get to today without having some drive and some purpose. And I don't know if there's a lot you can really say about that, right? You either sort of have it or you don't. You can't and still drive in somebody. But certainly, anybody here who's ever been a runner or a cyclist or a swimmer or a triathlete or all 4, there was a time in my life about 10 years ago where I was insane about this stuff. And at 4 a.m., I was up going to the pool to go swim, to get my laps in for my triathlon training. And I remember telling somebody that there's a huge difference when I was running. Every single run I did had a purpose. I had a hill run. I had a ladder. I had a speed run. My track workouts. And I remember turning to somebody at one of our workouts when I saw some guy running in circles around the laps, and I said, wouldn't it be nice to just run and not have a purpose? Like, I was looking like this every time I was running to 1/10 of a millimeter. And so my answer here, which is very not Glenn Krieger.
You sound like Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I can't. There's running. You know, it's true, but my point here is, this is very not me. So this is like the almost 50-year-old Glenn kind of figuring it out. I would almost say that driving with a purpose, you should sometimes do the exact opposite. And just just drive because you enjoy driving. You know, there doesn't have to be a purpose. There doesn't, you know, I think sometimes we get an agenda and not everybody's on board with our agenda. And I think sometimes you just go and do it with a smile for no good reason other than it just, you do it. And I think that becomes infectious. But I think if you're doing everything with a purpose, after a while, I think it might become a little disingenuous. And I don't know if I'm just going off wrong here. I'd love your feedback on it.
I can add something to that. I think our office has had a kind of a crazy 12 months and a pretty rough 12 months and for a lot of different reasons. But I've had to rethink myself a lot of like, what am I doing? Why am I going to work every day and throwing brackets on teeth and throwing attachments on teeth and doing all these things? And it reminds me of the part of Mr. Deeds where the guy's like, how many of you, wanted to be what do we want to be when you're younger, right? Fireman, all this other stuff. And then the guy's like a child pornographer or whatever, right? But anyway, so
Great story.
yeah. So anyways, and that type of concept of getting back down to the basics and thinking of, why are we doing this stuff? Ortho is freaking fun. We're getting so distracted about all these other things going on and all these purposes and having to make money and having to have a perfect this and perfect that. And it's all fluff, right? And at the end of the day, loving to do what we do and helping people really is what it's all about. And we get so distracted. So it's been hard for me to stay focused like that, but I'm working on that. So anyways.
That's rule number 10, right? That's what we're talking about. Have fun and enjoy the ride. Like, I just want all of you to think about this for a second. In the world right now, there's like an endless supply of jobs. How many people wake up every morning at a reasonable hour, can go work 3 or 4 days a week if they want to, potentially take home high 6 figures while doing it, with never breaking a sweat, never drawing blood, never doing manual labor, and being able to do it till they're 80 years old if they want to, and having to pay them to be a respected member of the community and to be able to make changes in people's lives for their self-esteem. Like, I didn't go back to ortho school almost at age 45 because it was just like something I pulled out of a hat. This is like the greatest profession on earth. And if you don't agree with me, I've got an 8-year-old next door who might need an endo that you want to go, I'm joking, my kid does not need endo. But I could go give you a 7-year-old kid who needs a pulpotomy and a stainless steel crown. Who'd like to go do that? And that's still like the cushiest of jobs, right? I've got a ditch in the backyard that needs to be dug, right? And I'll pay you $8 an hour to do it. We're blessed. We've got great lives.
I used to do that.
What?
I used to do that.
And it makes you, my first job was cleaning the walls of a cookie factory.
Yeah.
So, and I made $3.25 an hour. So, is there anything else anybody wants to add? Anything on your plate? Anything you want to discuss? So I got a lot of good things out of this. I just want to go around to each of you here because there's 12 of us here. I'm just going to say, I'm going to give a bus ticket to each of my team members on Monday, but I'm going to go write on my mirror, choose to be in a good mood. I love that, Tyler. That was freaking awesome, dude. That's the one action item I have that I'm going to go do, and I'm going to use my wife's lipstick instead of writing red rum on the mirror. I'm going to write, choose to be happy or choose to be in a good mood.
I choose to be happy.
I choose to be happy.
Having the I in front is important.
I like that. So Tyler, while we have you, what's the one action item you're going to go back and do?
Where I already did the bus tickets, and that's a long story, and that fell flat. So I won't end on that. But I put a reminder in my phone during this conversation to love my team a little bit more. That's my action item. So I'm going on vacation next week actually, but when I get back, I've set it for Monday morning at 7 a.m. to go off, so I can remember to keep that in mind and do that.
Nice. Darren, what's your one action item? What are you going to go do?
I'm going to set an alarm for every morning called Don't Worry, Be Happy. And that should hit me right before or after our morning huddle, maybe in the middle of it, which wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing to comment on to my staff. So
nice.
Oh.
What about you, Rishi?
For me, excuse me, I think we're going to finally do the 5 core values together. Something I've put out for a year now. But I think that'll kind of make a cohesive sort of effort and kind of unite us as a team.
Nice. I like that. Jerry?
So I have one last team member from my original 6, and I need to find out if she's on or off the bus. So Monday, she needs a ticket. So
what's your guess? Is she on or off?
I had mixed feelings last week when her buddy of 20 years put in her 2 weeks, and she was sick. So I didn't know if she was sick. I'm sure she was a little sad. I'm gonna see how she comes back. We had the office closed because I was out of town, so it was a longer weekend, and so I'm gonna see how she is. If her attitudes adjust. I understand she would be sad after working with someone 20 years, so I didn't want to, automatically assume that. But the conversation needs to be had, and like I said, I basically have an entire new team now, which I'm like mentioned earlier on cloud 9, but I need to find out where she stands. I love her. I love having her around, but if she's going to have the attitude, then she's got to get off the bus.
Okay. Anissa?
And the 5 core values, I want to post publicly. We have them, but I like posting them, like Doug said, to be accountable.
And if I can find I found one worksheet for my business core value, and I'll post it on the group. If I can find the workbook from the one that I used, I'll send that one as well on the post. Anissa?
I guess my urgent item to get off this week will be finding a replacement for my office manager. I'm not going to hire another office manager, but I just need someone to do the insurances and front desk and then go from there.
Okay. Dima?
Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, miracle. Okay, so yes, the core value, definitely, and then give my staff tickets. I don't know if any one of you guys bought the CDs. I listened to the CDs in the car, and it comes in 3 CDs, and I absolutely loved listening to Joy. She was unbelievable.
What did she sound like?
CD?
By the way, question, what did Joy look like?
I don't know. I just think the voice and listening to it was amazing. I even bought the CDs for some of my staff, and we're gonna kind of rotate them. Some of them prefer books, but it was great. I even made my husband listen to it in the car. So
nice.
I absolutely love the book, the CD, you name it.
So she's African American and middle-aged, overweight, happy-go-lucky. That's Joy.
I agree.
And short.
Short, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, Doug.
So, Darren, what about you?
All right. So I just joined about 10, 15 minutes ago because I was just leaving a CE event.
No worries.
I've been reading the book all week. And my big thing I've been working on this week is personally becoming the chief energy officer, making sure that I've got the most enthusiasm as anyone first thing in the morning, which usually isn't my cup of tea or a cup of coffee first thing in the morning. So I've been working on that. And I like what Jerry said just a few minutes ago after I joined about how much time we spend taking care of our patients and making sure they have a great experience and being part of their lives and making a difference in their lives. And really need to focus on my employees, making sure that they have a great personal life and that they go to work at a place that they enjoy to be at and are growing professionally and personally as well.
Nice. Doug?
I'm going to fire everybody. I'm just kidding. You know, I've done a lot of what we've mentioned after just reading the book, and I'm just going to keep at it. Sometimes it's tough to be that chief energy officer, but you know, I like having the reminders around, writing it on your mirror, and you know, posting your core values around, and just making sure that you're on all the time. It's a choice. Not everybody's just naturally there, but it's a choice that you can consciously make every day. And so, having that reminder, I like writing it up there on the mirror, and I'm going to do that and let that be my choice every day to be a chief energy officer.
Like that. And iPhone Shyam. Shyam, anything you want to say? I'm unmuting you. Nothing, Shyam, huh? Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I'll put a notice about next month's web conference for the book, the date change, and hopefully everybody will be okay, but we'll record it. And just for the ladies, is my wife going to kill me? Am I going to ruin her lipstick if I put it on the mirror? Am I going to destroy it? Awesome. That's a core value right there. So yeah, thanks for being a part of this. It's recorded, so if you ever want to go back and look at it again, it'll take me a few days to upload because it's not quick and easy. But looking forward to seeing you next month. I think we're going to have Gage is our web conference for the first expert. I really want to talk about numbers with them and how to track them and manage them with and without their program. And I think they're a good place to start. My accountant, my CPA, will be on a web conference after tax season is done to talk about P&Ls, balance sheets, cash versus accrual, how to understand what to look for in a practice valuation, stuff like that, and how to rip down your numbers to know what's really important. So, and then we got Joe Hirsch doing, what was it called? Gosh, I can't believe the Feedback Fix. He's a friend of mine, Amazon bestseller, talking about how to give feed forward, not feedback. It's a term he came up with, and he did some amazing stuff at Deloitte and their school that they have to train their employees and people from around the world. And he had unfettered access to it. So he's going to be our November web conference. And I'm just trying to, if there's anybody you want, let me know, and I will definitely bring them on board. So have a great night. I choose to be happy, right? I'm going to put that one on. Thanks, Tyler. Good to see you all. And Anissa, I wish you lots of peace in this whole process. I know how difficult it can be.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And we'll see each other soon. So have a great night, and love, peace, and lots of hair grease.